Christian McCaffrey comes in at number 7. Matthew, what would you say to someone if they were like, man, you were right last year. I want to take Christian McCaffrey number 1 overall or number 2 overall, and you have him at 7. Is that more related to the fact that he's going into his age 30 season, or how does that or Bijan's just better right now? What do you think?
Bijan's just better. McCaffrey turns 30 in June, right? He's had 320 touches and more in 3 of the past 4, almost 400 touches this season. And there's questions about does Trent Williams come back, right? What's the health of that offensive line? All that said that's me nitpicking as to why he's not number 1. Because there is obviously McCaffrey was amazing this year, but again, 30 years old. He's had significant injury problems in his past, but clearly I'm at 7, so I'm not that down on him. It's the framing of that question makes me have to sort of talk down Chris McCaffrey. Do I think Bijan Robinson, younger, safer, better environment? Maybe not better environment, but you prefer on the turf and in the NFC South than outdoors and in the NFC West. All that said, I'm a Chris McCaffrey believer. Again, had all of last year off, so the 399 touches. They use him so much in the passing game, which aren't as much as, somebody like Derrick Henry. And I do think McCaffrey is so attuned to his body because of what he's gone through. He's similar to Derrick Henry. I think he's one of the guys that is the exception that proves the rule. So if somebody drafted him at number 1 overall in a draft next year, I'm not looking at him weird. What? Why are you taking CMC? There's an easy argument to be made, but you're asking me why I have him at 7 instead of 1. It is because the usage this year, and by the way, we expect the Niners to go far in the playoffs. So it's $399 right now, and it's going to only go up as the season goes on, plus the fact that he'll be 30 years old in June. And, history has not been kind to running backs over the age of 30.
Jaxon Smith-Njigba right behind him at 8, Jay. It was an amazing season for JSN. There's no denying he's obviously a first-rounder in fantasy next year. But if we had to nitpick here, does Seattle's overall lower pass volume give you any concern, or do you think that's more of Kubiak kind of easing Sam Darnold into the offense and the fact it worked and that they can run so much of their pass game specifically through JSN?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. One, it is the fact that they run the ball so much in this offense. And then the other factors are JSN has been incredible, I think, on a per-game basis. He and Puka Nacua stand alone this year as the 2 best wide receivers in football. But in terms of how sustainable this is, one, you'd suspect that he's not going to be, breaking records in terms of target share and proportion of his own offense like he is this year. And then 2, a lot of his production, particularly in the first half of the season, was just dependent on these bomb play action passes, like these, the 61-yard touchdown he has against the Jags, the 50-yarder he has against Tampa. He's gone to 100 yards once in the last 5 games. And I think that, and now the prop market is setting him each week around 88.5 receiving yards. And I think that's probably more the baseline for him, as opposed to, he was on pace to break the all-time receiving yards record for a lot of the season. So I don't think that is particularly sustainable just because so much of it was deep ball dependent. And you would suspect that whether it's Rashid Shaheed becoming a bigger part of the offense or they bring in someone else, I think he was competing for touches primarily with AJ Barner and Cooper Kupp for most of the season. So you would suspect that there'll be more competition for targets next season.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. The other concern here is just, look, they're run heavy, right? I mean, in terms of Clint Kubiak, JSN had these huge plays, but no team was lower in pass rate this season. They were 32nd in pass rate. They were 28th in pass per attempt. So, it's a low volume offense. And oh, by the way, it works because Mike McDonald's his defense is so good. They don't need to get into these shootouts very often, right? I mean, and so playing within structure, playing ball control offense with good defense is one of the reasons why Seattle has a chance to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. So, I mean, I love JSN, but I agree with Jay's assessment there, right? In terms of the target share, I think likely comes down a little bit, right? 36%, probably still around 30, maybe 28%. He's a special player, but it's one of the reasons why I don't have him as number 1 overall. There's wide receivers I have over him.
And Connor, finally, would you take JSN? Would you take JSN over Jonathan Taylor next year because of the health stuff? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
Might take JSN over Puka.
Yeah.
I mean,
I get that.
Once again, yeah. I just, Puka's a guy that's banged up a lot, but he's amazing when he plays. And year 2 with Darnold and JSN, it's an interesting combo. But JSN for me, there's a case we made that like I'd take him at like 4th overall in the fantasy draft. Overall. Yeah.
So I mean, I have him as wide receiver 3 right now. So I have I have Puka and Jamar Chase over him, right? And I have him as a top 10 play, but I 3 or 4 spots after you would. My concern is that do teams sort of figure him out a little bit? That number one is Sam Darnold has a little bit of there's some injury risk to Sam Darnold, of course. And the other thing is it felt like every team that has Seattle on their schedule next year is going to figure out how do we stop Jaxon Smith-Njigba. And so, there are a couple of games where he just absolutely disappeared because teams were able to take him out of it and Seattle didn't have an answer elsewhere. And so I think with a slightly lower target share and the fact that teams will target him in a way that they didn't, I don't know. It's a weird one. And it's a really interesting conversation because we all agree he's a special, special player who's coming off just an unbelievable season. The floor was amazing as well, right? 13 different games with at least 18 fantasy points, 4 more than any other wide receiver. So there was, both a floor and a ceiling there with JSN. But again, it just like I agree. Shaheed gets a bigger target share. They'll replace Cooper Kupp with somebody that's more viable. AJ Barner's starting to come on, and they just don't throw a ton. So that's why I still have him as a top 10 player. It's always weird when you have these conversations because you have to nitpick, right? I'm sitting here saying negative things about JSN, who's awesome, who we love, who was part of my squad last year when I won the League of Assholes. He's got the ring. He's got the title, as part of our squad from last year.
Yeah. To be fair, Matthew, he immediately left your squad, joined my squad, and now is going to win Offensive Player of the Year and became a significantly better player. So you can read into that what you will. Last thing on JSN, and Connor, it's injury risk is subjective, but JSN doesn't get hurt. He's not nearly as much of an injury risk as Puka Nacua, who plays an incredibly violent style. Right. JSN, you watch him, and it's like, this guy, his route running is so pristine. He's not as dependent on contested catch stuff and clattering into bodies. He kind of tap dances around the field, and he's incredibly light on his feet. I would suspect that he is everyone's an injury risk, but he is less of one than some of these guys at the top.
And I think that's the argument. If you're taking him over Puka Nacua, which would probably be I'd say almost a 50-50 if you ran a poll on it, I think the side that would be 50% on taking JSN over him would say, I just feel more confident in the week-by-week health, which is, I mean, like you said, Jay, it's tough to figure those things out, but I think it's a fair one. To round out the top 10, James Cook, over 30 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons, Matthew. He is touchdown dependent, but the aspect is with James Cook, although he broke off a lot of long runs this year, the Bills are good at running the football. They typically score a lot of points. I know they've had some droughts at times, and he's a big part of that. So it feels like you're not doubting James Cook going into next year.
No, I mean, what was healthy to see here is he averaged over 21 touches a game in 2025, right? And so they're not scared to give him a massive workload, and the touchdown usage, the red zone usage, the goal-to-go usage wasn't fluky from last year. We thought it might be. But over the last 2 years, he is top 5 of the NFL in goal-to-go rushing attempts and red zone rushing attempts. They like to use him when they get in close. And as Josh Allen continues to get older, look, Josh is always going to have those Superman moments. We saw it against the Eagles where he's like, screw it, I'm taking it in myself towards the end of the game. But there's going to be more and more times where they're like, you know what, we don't want the wear and tear on Josh's body. We are happy to give it to James Cook when we get in close because, by the way, he's been productive. He's able to convert in those situations. And so would you like to see him used more in the passing game? Of course, 8% career target share. He was under 20 receiving yards per game in 3 of his 4 career seasons. So he's just still not a big part of the passing game, but it just feels like unless there's a massive change in the offensive philosophy of Buffalo, and I don't think there is, I think they're going to go far enough in the playoffs this year that everyone will be back, Sean McDermott, Joe Brady, and of course, Josh Allen, that James Cook will remain, an elite RB1.
Jonathan Medici asked, do we think the Bills bring in a wide receiver 1 and Cook regresses a bit Jay, I think they do make a move for a true number one wide receiver in this offense. But even with that, I don't think that changes anything for James Cook and the identity of their offense.
No, I don't think so. I think it just makes the passing game a bit better, and you see a concentration of targets that, guys that at the moment, like your Josh Palmers of the world and your Brandon Cooks, they have 2 Cooks now on this team. Those targets start to get concentrated more to a number one wide receiver. But ultimately, like Joe Brady wants to run the ball. I think it puts Josh Allen in the best spot. Allen is a cheat code for a running game because of his own rushing threat. And James Cook, he's just one of the most talented running backs in the league. This guy's going to win the rushing title. It doesn't really feel that way, but I mean, his slip and Jimmy type of runs where he just kind of slithers through bodies. Right. He is an elite running back, and I think that they don't want to have to have Josh Allen wear the cape all the time, and so they want to be built on the run. And James Cook, I don't think he's going anywhere. They paid him, so he's going to come back and be a huge part of the offense.
Hey, Connor, I just want to ask you just about the number one wide receiver thing on the Bills. Like who could they get? Because I feel like they've sort of tried this. Like they drafted
AJ Brown.
Coleman. Maybe AJ Brown. Yeah, that's
my top of mind.
Yeah,
because the Eagles then can trade him outside of the NFC. We think there's a chance he'll be available after everything that's gone on. There you go, Phil O'Brien. BTJ in Buffalo might feed families in fantasy.
It's interesting, right? I feel like they've made some, not full-throated attempts the way that like an A.J. Brown would be, but they tried to get Amari Cooper. I mean, they got Amari Cooper for a cup of coffee. They tried with Stephon Diggs for a few years. They drafted Keon Coleman.
Right.
They paid Josh Palmer. Like no one thinks of Josh Palmer as a number one wide receiver, but he got real money. Right. I mean, it's everyone was sort of like, whoa, what are they seeing Josh Palmer that we don't? And the answer was, turns out nothing. We were right all along.
Tyrell Shavers instead.
I mean, dude. So, but I'm just saying, it's not like they've ignored the position. They just haven't been able to nail it. They've tried different things, but yes, A.J. Brown would be interesting. Yeah. Let's see. After Stephon Diggs, let's go get, what we need is another mercurial wide receiver, diva wide receiver. Yes, that'll work out great. I mean, A.J. Brown's super talented, but it's just when things don't go his way, he's, yeah, I don't know. He's reading another How to Survive the Ice in Buffalo, and he's just sitting. I can just imagine what book he'll bring to Buffalo. But anyway, yeah, I mean, they have to try to do something, obviously, because it is just Josh Allen out there with a bunch of guys.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.